I am genuinely so excited to film this video. It's like the first thing I've been excited for in weeks. So love that. It's also the first time I've cared about what I looked like in months. So this video has a lot of things going for it. I'm very hopeful about it. Let's get into it. So this is gonna be my spring/summer book bucket list. Also kind of a quarantine kind of thing. I'm not trying to monopolize on a pandemic, but it does mean that I have a lot more time to read since I'm not physically at school right now like I normally would be during this time. I would normally be working 2 jobs right now, but I'm not. I just had some of my last classes for the year and I decided to sit down and talk about what books I would like to read over the next 2 to 3 months. These are ones that I've been wanting to read for a really long time. A couple of ones that are just kind of thrown in there because I saw them and was like, hey, I'm kind of in the mood for that, so we'll see how those go. Let's just talk about books. Since this will be the first video probably on my channel, unless my March wrap-up goes April, we're in April, unless my April wrap-up goes up first, but in the first couple of videos I want to try to help you guys get familiar with what my reading tastes are, what my good popular opinions, unpopular opinions, just kind of like a frame of what you can expect from me and from content on this channel. So it's going to be a little bit different than probably your traditional just list of books, because I'm going to talk about more about why I want to read these books, what other books I've read that make me think that I'm gonna enjoy these books, and so on and so forth. So hopefully it's not too long, but maybe a bit longer than the average video will be on this channel. So let's just get started. So the first item on this list is actually a series of books in which I've already read the first 2. I only actually physically own 3 of them, so that's what I'm going to be showing off. It is the Invisible Library series by Genevieve Koegman. The Masked City is actually the second book. I just don't own the Invisible Library itself because I read it from either my library or Scribd. I can't remember. I think it was probably my library. I don't think it's on Scribd. I've actually already read The Masked City, so that's not a part of this. But I want to read the 3rd book, which is The Burning Page, and the 4th book, which is The Mortal World. And I believe there's a 5th book that's out, maybe? I don't know. I should probably research things better, but I didn't. So basically the concept of this series, it reminds me, gives me similar vibes to another series that I really love, which is the Parasol Protectorate series by Gail Carriger. The first book of which is Soulless. There are 5 books in that original series, read and loved all of them. They're a bit adult, but so if you enjoy kind of smutty romances that also have like paranormal and very political aspects to them that are also set in like Victorian era London. I believe it's the Victorian era, but don't quote me on that. Old-timey London. We'll go with that. You should check those books out. They're some of my favorites and I keep meaning to reread them, but I have not recently reread them. But I picked up the Invisible Library because it gave me similar vibes. The concept is that this main character, whose name I cannot remember, Irene, main character Irene is a librarian for the Invisible Library, which is like a pocket dimension where it's literally just this huge library where they train librarians who are kind of like spies to go out into the multiverse and find copies of books that the library doesn't have, because their basic journey is to save all literature, fiction, nonfiction, kids books, adult books, religious texts, everything. It's really interesting, it's really fun. I love Irene. She's really like, I almost said the word spunky. She is very unique. I think she's very strong. I like the writing style a lot. It's not anything world-changing. I wouldn't say that it's hugely influential is the wrong word. It's light and fun, and I enjoyed it a lot, and I think that I will enjoy the rest of the series, so I want to continue with it. But I would highly recommend The Invisible Library. The second thing on this list is Nevernight by Jay Kristoff. Everyone and their mother has heard of this series. I'm just getting around to it. That's a theme on this list. I think yes, I did start reading it. So I'm actually 74 pages into this. I think I remember enough that I'll probably just continue on from that point. I don't think I'll go back and reread the 74 pages because I think I started this like only 2 or 3 months ago. Honestly, I don't know why I didn't finish it. I was enjoying what I was reading. I think it was a little bit slow for me in the beginning, but I'm not even 100 pages in, so that's fine. I just need to get back into it and read the rest of the series because from everything I've heard about it, it's right up my alley. I really love like the really dark fantasy, blood and gore kind of thing, and that seems like exactly what the series is. It seems like the series kind of wrote the book on that kind of genre in a way, so I would really love to get around to finishing this. The next book is another fantasy book. Shocker. Honestly, I don't read as much fantasy as I would like to right now. I think that's why a lot of these books are fantasy. I've recently been reading a ton of mystery thriller, which is probably, I'd say fantasy and mystery are tied for my favorite genre, so I think I've been kind of overloaded on the mystery recently and I've been reading a lot of that, so my goals are to read more fantasy because for some reason I just haven't been picking them up as much recently. Anyways, I've been like showing this in the corner, it doesn't really matter, but this is Furyborn by Claire Legrand. I really enjoy her writing. Obviously Furyborn is hugely popular, or was when it came out. I can't remember the name of the second book, but that's also out. I read 2 of Claire Legrand's other books. I read Sawkill Girls. I enjoyed it. I think I probably gave it 3 or 4 stars. It didn't change my life. It's probably not one of my favorite books. I liked the queer undertones in it. That'll be a theme throughout this channel. I thought that the characters were really strong. I like her writing. It was a fun time. I also read the... what is that called? I read her middle grade book. I read The Cavendish Home for Boys and Girls last year and enjoyed it. I also read a lot of... Currently I've been reading a lot of middle grade. It is one of my favorite things to read, but not to the level of just regular old YA/adult fantasy and YA/adult mystery thriller. But I do probably read more middle grade than, at least among my favorite channels on booktube, I read more middle grade than I see traditionally. So if you're interested in that, join me. I have been falling into a pit of middle grade. I'm currently reading 3 different middle grade books right now and loving all of them. Check out The Strangers by Margaret Peterson Haddix if you haven't. It's great. I'm reading The Deceivers right now, which is the second book in that series. Anyways, I've had Furyborn for 2 years now. I first bought it like when Barnes & Noble did that first book haul sale 2 years ago. I think it was. I think that was the first one. Either way, it was super cheap, so I bought it and I just have never gotten around to it. So now's the time. Oh my god, this book is so big. Okay, this is like the culmination of me wanting to get back into fantasy properly. It is also on the recommendation of my dad, who is a huge fan of Brandon Sanderson. I'm also a huge fan. I just haven't read as much of him as I would like, so this is part of the endeavor to get to the place where I've read all, eventually, of his books. This is The Way of Kings, the Stormlight Archive Book 1. It is over 1,000 pages long, I believe. I think it's maybe just at 1,000 pages. It's huge. I also have, this is the British edition of it because I love the British editions of Sanderson's books. I think they're gorgeous. I really love this art style on the cover. I honestly couldn't tell you what the Stormlight Archives in general is about. I know the 4th one is supposed to come out later this year. I would say it's ambitious to try to say I'm going to read all 3 before the 4th one comes out, but I know that I have access to all the audiobooks of them, so it's possible that that will happen. Currently my goal is to at least read this one by the end of the summer, which I'm not going to place an explicit deadline on, but hopefully by the time I go back to school, so like beginning of August-ish, end of August, I don't know. Somewhere around then, hopefully I'll have read this and all these other books that I'm talking about. Okay, another hugely popular book that I haven't read, which is a theme here. I think there's 1 or 2 more left that are like that, so beware. This one is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I know you really can't see it over here, but I think you all know what Six of Crows looks like. This is the first book in the Six of Crows series, duology. I have both of them, so I have this one and The Crooked Kingdom. I've had them for years. I just have struggled, honestly, with starting Six of Crows. I've tried to start this book probably 3 or 4 times, gotten probably up to 80 to 90 pages in all of those times, and then for one reason or another put it down. I don't think I hate this book, and I don't think that it's not for me. Like I said, dark fantasy is something that I really enjoy and want to read more of, and this strikes me as that kind of thing. Also on my bucket list sometime in the future is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I know that's very different. I'm just saying that I want to read more of her in general. And I have read all of the original Grisha trilogy. I don't know if it's just called the Shadow and Bone series or what the name is. I read all of them a while ago, a long time ago. Those weren't my favorite books. I enjoyed them a lot. They weren't favorites. So I think maybe Leigh Bardugo's writing isn't my favorite thing, and it's taking me a minute to get into this. But I would like to read it because I've heard so many good things about it, and so many people that I trust their opinions love, love, love this series. So I think it's time to take the dive. I also have the audiobook of this one, which I may turn to if I'm still struggling with the beginning. We're like halfway through. Yeah. This one I've also owned for a very long time. It is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I cannot believe that I haven't read this one. I've never even tried to read this one. I know that people love this book, like, love this book. And I also know that The Starless Sea just came out, and I literally just read, well, just came out. It came out this year, the end of last year, I don't know. I think it was this year. I just read the description of that for the first time today, and it sounded incredibly up my alley. So it's like, maybe I don't have access to that book right now, but I do own The Night Circus. So it's like, maybe I should finally read something of Erin Morgenstern's because everybody seems to love it so much, and I've been meaning to for an incredibly long time. So yes, this one. I don't know what this is about except for a circus, presumably, at night, also presumably. I don't know. Maybe that's wrong. But yeah, I'm gonna read this eventually, soon. I'm really in the mood for this one, so I think this may be one of the first ones that I pick up after I get out of this intense middle grade kick that I'm on, which there will be a video about, hopefully, soon. At least I will talk about it in my April wrap-up, because I have a lot of those middle grade books to talk about. Okay, hopefully the angle hasn't changed too much, although I can tell that it has. My camera has this really annoying thing where it stops filming after a certain amount of time automatically. I don't know how to fix it, but it happened. Okay, let's jump back in. The next book on this list is one that I also have heard is fairly popular, at least on Twitter / Goodreads / Instagram-ish. I haven't really looked into it though, so I don't know what this is about. I just know that I found it for free at like a, was it free? It was like $1 where I got it. It doesn't matter. It's The City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty. There's an R there. I know that this is the beginning of a trilogy. I know it's a debut book. I know it's fantasy set in Egypt, I believe. Yes, in the 18th century. That's very interesting. Is it fantasy? Yes, it's fantasy. Okay. I want to read this book because I want to read it. I don't really have any other reasoning besides the fact that it's fantasy. I think it has a female protagonist. It's set in Egypt, which is cool. I haven't read a lot of books set in Egypt. So, yeah. That's that. I'm gonna read this book. This is the only classic on this list. I have been studying English in college for 3 years now, and I have been reading a lot more classics because of the classes that I've been taking and surprising myself with how much I'm enjoying them. I think I'm probably gonna make a video about why you should read classics or try classics. I think it's really interesting to read them. even if it's not your favorite thing. I don't want to say that it's not enjoyable to read them, because I think they're just different. I think you read them differently, and as someone who loves literature and looking at how things have developed, I think it's cool to read them. So I am going to read Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. For a class I took last semester, I read Villette by Charlotte Bronte and honestly really enjoyed it. And I have never read Jane Eyre, so I figured that I should do so because it's her most popular book. And yeah, this has been on my list for as long as I could be interested in reading, honestly. So yeah, I'm gonna read it. 2 books that I don't really know much about, and then 1 that I know a lot about. And then we're done. So the first one that I don't know a ton about is A Secret History of Witches by Louisa Morgan. I bought this at my campus bookstore just because it seemed interesting. The name Witches is in the title. It says, I'm just going to read the back. A sweeping historical saga that traces 5 generations of fiercely powerful mothers and daughters, witches whose magical inheritance is both a dangerous threat and an extraordinary gift. I think that I was drawn to this because one of my favorite books for a long time, I haven't reread it in probably 6 years, so I couldn't say if it's still one of my favorites now. I should go reread it, was The Strange and Beautiful Sorrows of Ava Lavender by Leslie Walton. I would recommend that you check it out. It follows a similar kind of magical, like speculative, tracing a family tree kind of deal. It's very interesting. I enjoyed it a lot. It's the first book of its kind that first book like it that I've ever read, and I do want to go back and reread it. And this kind of reminded me of that. Ava Lavender is considerably shorter than this book. It's actually a pretty short book, and it's YA, so it's probably going to be a bit easier to read than I think this will be. But I'm really interested in reading this. I like reading about powerful women, I like reading about witches, and I don't traditionally read this more kind of like what I would probably say is like highbrow, from what I presume of what it is, literature. That could be very presumptuous of me, but we'll see. I want to read it, and it's been on my shelf for over a year, and I spent like $20 on this book, so I should probably make that investment worth it. 2 more. The first of which is The Power by Naomi Alderman. I had my mom buy this for me for Christmas this year because I had heard a lot about it when it first came out, and obviously, according to the New York Times Book Review, it was one of their top 10 best books of, I presume, whatever year this came out. And yeah, Margaret Atwood has blurbed it, someone whose books I have not read, but I really should. And yeah, I know it's about feminism and the role of womanhood in society and stuff that really interests me. I would like to read it and be able to talk about it because I think it's going to cover very interesting topics. Alright, the very last one. Possibly the longest book on this list. Probably. I don't know if it's longer than A Way of Kings, but we'll go with it. And also probably one that if I didn't read one of the books on this list, that would be the one. This is so heavy and so big. It is It by Stephen King. I am aware that Stephen King has had some very questionable Twitter interactions, I think, recently. I don't know enough about them to comment on them. From what I think I know about them, I don't support them. I want to make that clear. However, I have been wanting to read more of his work because I want to read more traditional horror/thriller books. I want to get more into that. I'm traditionally reading the mystery side of the mystery thriller category, and I want to get more into the horror/thriller kind of aspect of it, and I feel like King is kind of a monolith of that in our modern literature. So, and it is like one of his most iconic books. I know there's also like The Shining and Carrie and stuff like that, and I do want to read that. But I also wanted to read this because I just hit myself in the face with it, and it's really fucking heavy. Because within the past, I want to say 6 months or so, I read both The Outsider, which is the first book in the Holly Gibney trilogy, and Mr. Mercedes, which is the first book in the Bill Hodges trilogy, which are kind of connected. I want to read Finders Keepers and End of Watch, I think, was the last book of the Bill Hodges trilogy, and then I think whenever the next book in The Outsider comes out, I'll read that. Those were the first two Stephen King books I've ever read. I really enjoyed both of them. I think I probably liked The Outsider a bit more. No, I have not watched the TV show yet. Yes, I want to. I don't watch a lot of TV though, so we'll see when that happens. Also, compounded on top of those two reasons, I, like many people, have fallen in love with the movie series that came out in the past couple of years. I'm literally rewatching the first one with my family tonight. I think they're a really fun time. I like the balance of horror and human connection that are in them. I think they're really fun. I think the characters are really great. I don't know how true to the book it is, but I would like to read the book to find out. Obviously, it's gigantic, but I've also heard that it's scarier than the movie, which I'm down for. So we shall see what happens here. This might be one where I read like a couple hundred pages every now and again and then take a break and read a different book, which I'd be fine with. Honestly, this is one more than thinking I want to really enjoy this one, I'm thinking I want to get it under my belt. I want to be able to say that I've read it, which I think is fine. So yeah, this will happen eventually, hopefully this summer/spring. After filming for 30 minutes, we're done. Those are all the books that I want to read. I'm not going to attempt to pick them up. They're in like 3 different stacks/piles around me on the floor on my desk. So hopefully you remember what I talked about. Yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this first video on my channel. I have enjoyed making it a lot, so I think that's really what counts. I am really looking forward to reading all of these books and hopefully talking about them either in my monthly wrap-ups or just maybe I'll do a like recap review at the end of the summer to be like, how many of these did I read? Did I read any of them? Did I like any of them? I don't know. Hopefully we can do something like that. I would love to. That's all I have for you today. Stay tuned soon for an April wrap-up, which I will be filming over the next couple of days, and a couple of other videos that I'm very excited for. Like I mentioned, something middle grade focused is coming, as well as something mystery focused. Keep an eye out for those if you're interested. I will leave a link to my Twitter down below. I am trying to reboot my Instagram, but it hasn't happened yet. So as that happens, it'll show up in the description as well. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Keep an eye out for my other videos, and leave me your favorite books in the comment down below so we can chat. Maybe we have some similar ones, maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, I'll see you next time.